What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's review we're going to be taking a look at the newly released Devil Saviour Troublemaker DS-04 Smash, the second released by Devil Saviour as part of their new and upcoming Devastator movie combiner. Now before I begin this review, if you are in the market for picking this figure up, he is available to order right now over at Heat Toy, and for that I will leave a link down in the description box below for a direct link to the listing of DS Smash as well as a direct link to Heat Toy's store. So before we begin with the review, I'm first of all going to take a quick look at the packaging. You can see here that for the front of the box we have an image of Longhaul in both his robot mode as well as his vehicle mode. We've got the Smash, Troublemaker and Devil Saviour logos on the bottom. The side of the packaging has an up close image of Longhaul's face, with the back of the packaging showcasing some product shots of the figure in all three of his modes: robot mode, vehicle mode and of course the combined form. And it also does show that this will indeed become the leg to Devil Saviour's Devastator. The other side of the packaging just has another up close image of Longhaul's face. And before we crack this figure open and take a look at him, I first of all want to quickly showcase you the instruction manual, which is really nicely done, very detailed. You can see we've got actual images of the real life product, so it really does give you a great view of what you're actually looking at when converting the figure, and the instructions are so easy to follow. You've got different text throughout the instructions detailing on how you should maneuver certain aspects of the figure, and I actually found these to be some of the more detailed instruction manuals to come out from a third-party product. If we flip, however, to the back of the book, we do also get a look at Devil Saviour's DS-03, which is of course Overload. So you can see the Overload component there, and it shows you how you can incorporate Longhaul's foot onto Overload, and this figure definitely looks as if though it's going to be a massive piece and very detailed. And then we also do get an image of their Devastator, with this section here highlighted, as of course this is the part that we're reviewing today, and it also shows their next combiner, which is going to be their version of Scrapper. So without further ado, let's see what awaits us inside. And here we have Devil Saviour's DS-04 Smash opened up and out of the packaging, and as he comes packaged here in his robot mode. Now I'm sure you'll all agree with me in saying that this figure looks absolutely tremendous out of the box. You can just see the amount of detail, the paint applications, the level of movie accuracy that Devil Saviour have put into this figure. It truly is a masterpiece in my eyes. The previous figure that I did review of theirs was their DS-01 Mixmaster, and although that figure was an absolute pain to transform, there was no denying that it looked remarkable in all four of its modes. This figure, I can happily say, is a lot more simpler than the DS-04, but that doesn't take anything away from the overall look of the figure. You can see how nicely the backpack tidies up. It's just the right amount of bulk for Longhaul. It makes him look very accurate to the film, whilst at the same time not protruding too much. You can see we've got the details of the missile pods on the arms of Longhaul, something which no other Hasbro figure has managed to replicate, and I just think that the overall paint applications and proportions look truly tremendous. Coming in for a closer look, you can see here the amazing looking head sculpt, truly accurate to what we see in the movie. You can pick out the small mandibles in the centre of Longhaul's face, as well as the nicely detailed red painted eyes. The entire figure does appear to have had almost this dry brush effect over it. You can see some silver highlights scattered throughout it, which really does excel some of the smaller details. You can see that here for the head, that all of the nooks and crannies have been highlighted so nicely, and they have indeed painted these sections of the head in a gunmetal. I just think that the paint apps for this look fantastic. You can see some more subtle details, such as the cogs actually underneath the head, and those two once again have been painted. As we take a look at this section, we've got the springs which attach to these, and I think that looks really nice. And you can see this almost layered effect where the wheels situate over the top of the springs, which I think all looks really cool. And then under there at the back of the head, we've got some nice details that have been once again painted really nicely. We do have some die cast pieces in this figure, such as the arm joints. The arm joints are made of die cast, as well as some elements in the torso which I'll showcase throughout the transformation. But you can see here for the torso region, so much sculpted in detailing, and the paintwork truly is just remarkable. This entire review is probably going to be me just gushing over the amount of detail that Devil Saviour have once again put into their figures. I just cannot wait to build their Devastator Gestalt. I think that it's going to be one of the best figures in my collection. You can see here that the amazing detail applied to the fingers. The plastic as well feels incredibly durable. This figure doesn't feel lightweight whatsoever. He has been made out of really stern materials. And you can see here that these sections hang off on the side, much like they would in the movie. And we've got all of the nice sculpted detailing here. If you just move this section, you can see more of the details underneath where the hip sections would be. And then just concealing that and giving you a look at it from a side perspective. I just think that it's so nicely detailed. I love how this section here comes over the top of the wheel as well. Makes it look more transformed and once again more movie accurate. And in there you've got some nice spring-loaded detail. It would have been nice if perhaps they could have painted this, although I imagine if they would have painted it any colour other than green, it probably would have stood out like a sore thumb. So I completely understand as to why they chose not to paint that. On the inner section of the leg too, it's all really nicely detailed. And even the feet themselves, you can see they've almost got this sand-like texture at the bottom of the feet to make it look as if though Long has been marching his way through the deserts of Egypt. And that is shown all the way throughout as well. It could be rust, but to me it more looks like sand. Just an absolute stunning looking piece. In terms of articulation, the head is actually really articulated, surprisingly. So we do get some left to right range of motion. The head can indeed look up all the way. It is on 2 hinge joints, so 1 hinge joint here and then a 2nd hinge joint there. So you can hinge it up, you can collapse it down, you can utilize this joint in order to get him looking down. It doesn't nod side to side, unfortunately, as it's not on a ball joint. We do get hinge joints here, forwards and backwards. However, the tyres do hinder the articulation ever so slightly, or of course you can move those out of the way and get a full range of motion. We get some very heavy duty ratchet joints here on this die-cast structure as well, so that's all really nice. And if you utilise the transformation hinge, you can indeed get a butterfly range of motion out of that as well, just collapsing that section down. We do get a rotation here at the bicep, as well as a slightly over 90-degree bend here at the elbow section. You can see that it can hinge just ever so slightly over 90 degrees. For the wrists, these two are once again really articulated, so they're hinged here and here, so you can have them in a more straightened out position, or you can collapse them more into the body to make it look as if though he's in a growling like pose or just a really aggressive stance. We do also get a wrist rotation joint, allowing the wrist to rotate the full 360. In terms of the waist articulation, just ratcheting these joints up, we do get a full 360 degree rotation at the waist, and if you move this section out of the back, you could probably make him do the full 360. We do also get hinge joints out to the side for the legs, so he can kick forwards that far, as well as back to about that far before this section here bumps into the backpack. We also do have ratchet joints out to the side, which is really nice to see. Rotation here at the thigh, as well as a hinge joint here for the knee. He does indeed have a double jointed knee, however that's mainly due to transformation, and once again you're more than likely going to bump into this section here at the back of the thigh. We do also, coming down to this area, get ankle rocker joints, and these two are on double hinge joints, mainly due to transformation, but you can see you can rock this forwards and backwards, and you can also swivel the foot all the way around as well if you so desire. So in terms of articulation, similarly to how well detailed and painted this figure is, I think that it looks absolutely remarkable. In terms of a quick size comparison, here I have Devil Saviour's version of Long Haul compared next to the newest official release of Long Haul, that being the Studio Series version, and you could just see when comparing these that this truly does look as if though it is a masterpiece, even better than masterpiece in my opinion. It just completely blows away the Studio Series version in terms of detail and paint application. I know that some people believe that the Studio Series version is more proportionally accurate to the movie. However, when having this figure in hand, I quite honestly think that there's enough bulk here in order for him to look accurate if in the robot mode, and this figure does all 3 modes tremendously, where I really only think that the Studio Series version nails the look of the robot mode. This figure has an exceptional looking robot mode, vehicle mode, as well as a combined mode. So just to quickly show you, I do believe that this newest version from Devil Saviour is roughly the size of a modern leader class. Now, turning to the transformation of DS-04 Smash, similarly to that of DS-01 Split, the transformation from Devil Saviour once again is more on the more involved and complex side. However, I can assure you that this figure is nowhere near as frustrating nor as complex as DS-01. So to begin with, what I like to do is just remove these missile pods here, and we'll utilise those later on. I then like to come to these sections here and just fold up the hands to the forearms. We can then take these pieces and just attach those, and with this you're just going to want to rotate this section around. So you can see on this side, just hinge that off and then hinge this around and lift this section up. Leave those off now to the side. We can come to this whole back assembly, and you're just going to want to loosen all this up and just lift this out of the way for later in the transformation. Take the head now and rotate the head around to the back. We can then take this piece and just fold this section out for later on. Come here to the toes, and you're going to want to hinge those out to the sides and hinge this one out as well. Now what we'll do is we'll take this section and just hinge this off to the side as well, just to allow for some extra clearance. We can then come to these pieces, rotate those around, and then take this, hinge this out to the side, and utilize this tab that will peg into this port. So just snap that into place. Take this here, rotate that around, and just compress it, and it will snap really nicely into place. Repeat the exact same process here for the opposite side. So just hinge that out of the way, take this section, rotate that around, snap that into place, rotate this around, and snap that into place. We're now going to want to take the legs and just lift those up, and then take the torso and separate this piece from the crutch plate. So in order to do this, just detach that and hinge that all off to the side so that we have some clearance in order to work on the legs. Now the legs are actually one of the more simpler aspects of the transformation. You're going to want to get this tab here pegged into this slot. However, what I recommend doing first is bending this first joint and then bending the second joint. And once that's done, it's really and truly just a matter of trying your best to align everything up. The joints can be rather stiff, but you can see that it did tab in there really nicely and easily. Repeat the exact same process here for this side. So come to this section and just bend this hinge joint and then bend all this over, ensuring that we keep the hip of the leg facing in this direction, and then just collapse this and snap that nice and firmly into place. We can then come to this section here and just ensure that both of the joints are ratcheted in the middle, and then lock this piece in. Take this hook section, lock that section in, rotate these pieces around to this side, and then here we can just snap all of this nice and securely into place. So a really nice and fluid transformation for the whole lower region of the figure. Now what I like to do is come to this section, and here what you're going to do is separate it here via this port, but also lift it up at the same time so that we can almost unlock this locking mechanism. So just hinge that out of the way and then pull apart. Once that's done, you're going to want to rotate this section around so that we unveil the lovely sculpted in vehicle mode detailing, and then just extend that downwards. Repeat the same process here on this side, just extend that downwards. Now what I like to do is hinge this section up, and here you can see a slot that this tab will slide into. So at first it will look as if though it's at a slight bend, however it will all make sense in just a second. And repeat the same process here for this side, so just align all that up. Now what you'll do is you can see this slot here and this slot here. These tabs here will indeed peg into both of these. So with this, you're just going to want to maneuver this die cast joint down until we can lock all of this into place. And it can be rather difficult at first. You have to push these in at the same time, but they will eventually sit nice and flush. And then just take this, shift this down, tab that into place, come to this side here, and then just snap that all nice and securely into place. So that is essentially the entire front section of the truck fully transformed. Now what we'll do is we'll proceed to turn to this side. Now you're going to want to come to this piece here and just untab this, which will free up this hinge joint. So you'll be able to now move this around. We can then come to this and lift this all the way up and out of the way for now. This can be rather convoluted at first, however, believe me, it's a lot more straightforward than it actually looks at first glance. Now, turning our attention to these sections, you're going to want to move this out of the way and then just hinge this forwards and then just lift this up for now. And we'll repeat the same process here. So just hinge this out of the way and hinge this section forwards. We can then take these and you're going to want to rotate these pieces so that the ports are facing downwards. And if I just bring this all down, you'll see that these will peg into place, and you'll begin to see that these here will peg into these slots here on the chest. Just pull all of this down, lock one into place, and then the other one you'll just hinge into place as well, and give a nice firm push on those. And then with these sections, you'll just rest those here. And that is a really nice piece of detailing when we get into vehicle mode. Coming on now to this section, you're going to want to straighten this section out and snap that into place. So repeat the same process. Just snap all of that into place. And then with this, repeat the same process. So just straighten all of this out. This can be rather finicky to do. And then just repeat the same process here for the opposite side. So just align all that up. Come under to the underside. Flip this panel out and tab that into place, and then these here will also flip out into place, and then we'll just align this up. And now coming into these sections, you're going to want to rotate this around, keep that flush, and then it's just a matter of utilizing these ratchet joints, straightening out the arms so that we're left with something that looks along the lines of this, and repeat the same process here for this side. So fold this section out, ratchet them all out of the way, and then coming to this section here, this entire rod will actually slide down inwards, So just to demonstrate that, you can see that it will just slide all the way down, and then we'll just collapse all of this down, ensuring that the truck bed tries to stay into one piece. We can begin to tidy up some of this later on. And then here you can see a slot and a slot here that this tab and this tab here will fill. So just utilizing the ratchet joint, you'll just want to snap that in, and then we'll align that section up, come to this piece, tab that section in, and then repeat the exact same process here for this side. So just straightening all of this up, you just want to ratchet this piece inwards. This one is rather stiff on my copy, but just snap that in, and then align the back slot, align this slot up, ensuring that everything is tabbed in nice and securely. So come back to these wheels, just snap those all into place. Now with this section, you'll lift these pieces up, fold those around, and these clips here will slide into these slots. So just clip that into place. Come to this side here and clip that into place. And there you have the completed truck mode for DS-04. Now we can bring in our missiles, and these here will just peg into the bed of the vehicle mode via these tabs and the slots. So just align those up, and then come to this section here and put those into place. And here is the vehicle mode fully transformed up. Now, taking a quick look at DS-04 long haul in his truck mode, I'll very quickly cover the details as we still have one entire transformation and alt form to take a look at. But you can see here some of the phenomenal paint applications once again shining through with all of the magnificent detailing. Now, something which surprised me quite a lot when transforming this figure was how much this actually looks like a real life construction vehicle, and how faithful it actually looks to that of the vehicle that Long Haul obtains in the Revenge of the Fallen movie. You can see here that the wheels do in fact roll really nicely as well, and that is present for this side. There is some slight give in the hinge joint. Now it does tab in at this section which locks this hinge in, but you can see that this one here doesn't really tab in, and it is rather flexible, which is slightly unfortunate, as I do believe that these are probably going to loosen over time. And you saw there that the wheel will begin to look as if though perhaps it is damaged, but of course you can just hinge that back into place, and then there is no problem with that whatsoever. You can see here that the truck bed is really nice and completed, unlike the Studio Series version. So that's all quite nice to see. There is a few gaps here and there, but seeing as how complex the actual transformation to this section is, I can completely forgive that. As we turn to the rear end of the vehicle, we can see we've got some nice vehicle mode details, and I think that overall it just looks really nice. We do have the GAT instead of CAT, which I think is quite a nice compromise. We've got the windscreen and the window wipers there for this piece, as well as some nice sculpted in detailing underneath this section, so that's all quite nice to see. And then the front section of the truck also looks magnificent with some nice decals, as well as the headlights. We can also utilise our hinge joints for the elbows in order to actually get the real life truck bed working. So if that is something that you're so inclined to do, you can indeed begin to hinge this up. However, due to the stiff nature of it, you're more than likely going to begin to untab certain aspects of the vehicle mode. So overall for truck mode, I think that it's just as solid as it was in robot mode and looks really, really accurate. Now, turning to the transformation of Long Haul from truck mode into combined mode, it's not as straightforward as it was from robot mode to vehicle mode, but that's not to say that it's on the more complex side. There's just a lot more steps that you have to be wary of. So to begin with, what I like to do is once again remove these missile pods, and we'll just set those off to the side. We can begin untabbing all of this. So take this section, just untab this and hinge this up on the screw. Repeat the same process here for this side. So hinge this up, and then just rotate this section up and hinge out the arms to the side on both sides. We can then take this piece, and you're going to want to hinge this in and just collapse it all so that it appears how it did before we transformed it into truck form. We can then hinge these pieces up, take this section here and hinge all this up, and then this will actually become the base of our foot, but we'll worry about that later on. We can then come to this section, and what you're going to do is once again detach all of this. So once that's all unattached, we can then take these, just hinge those off to the side, and then repeat the same process, and we can worry about this entire region later on. Now what we're going to do is come to this section and just detach all this and hinge this off to the side. Come to this here, unhook this, just unhook those, and then come to this section and unhook this piece here. So just detach all that, And now you're going to take our whole leg and extend it. Repeat the same process here, just as if though we were going into robot mode. Extend it all the way out. Now we're going to come to this section. Take your thumb and push out this, and then that will shoot out this piece as we're going to transform these back into the robot mode configuration. So fold the wheels down and then fold these wheel covers over the top, and repeat the same process, of course, on the opposite side. So just fold and push out this section, and then rotate this around. Take the wheel, collapse that into place, and then just fold all that around. Come here now to the feet, and quite a fair bit of transformation actually goes on here. So hinge that out, and then take this and fold that all the way out, and then take this section here and hinge that out. Repeat the same process here for this side. So we're going to want to hinge this piece out, take this, hinge this out, take this section of the foot, and just hinge this all out and fold this out accordingly. Now coming to the whole joint of the foot, you can see here that there is indeed a slot that this tab will tab into. So you're going to want to hinge this backwards, hinge this section forward, and just align it until these sections here tab into place. Repeat the same process on the opposite side. So just get that out of the way and hinge all this forwards. Snap that all in firmly into place. Now we're going to once again bring this section down, and rotate around so that we're looking at this piece. Now, just raising the camera up in order to give you a better perspective of what's going on in this whole upper region, we're going to turn our attention to these sections now, and you're probably just going to want to hinge the leg off to the side and try your best to get these hydraulic pieces out. Now, these are very firmly stuck in there, but you just want to pull these down, and then we'll repeat the same process here for this side. So just get your finger now in there and pull all of this down and out. With that now done, we can turn our attention to all of this. You're going to want to take this hook and just hinge this out of the way. Take this piece here and rotate it around so that this grey section is roughly around where this spring is. Once that's done, we can collapse the foot down so you can see that we have enough clearance here for the hook. And then with this piece, you're going to port this huge tab into that slot. So just align that up and give all that a nice firm push. And of course, repeat the exact same process here for the opposite side. So just bring this section around and hinge that out of the way. Then take this, lift this piece up, and get them into very similar positions. Whilst we're here, we can take this small tab and lift this piece up, and then once again, port all of this firmly into place. And you're going to want to ensure that the ratchet joint is as close to the crutch plate as possible. So snap that one into place, snap that one into place, and then this here will peg into a slot within there. So just align this all up, give all that a nice firm push, come to these two halves and lock those nice and securely into place. Come to this section here, ensuring that everything is more or less exactly lined up. Take this piece and snap that all nice and securely into place. Come to these pieces, and then just tab those in via the slots, and then we'll come to this piece and we'll just snap all of that in, and then in order to solidify it, we'll lift these pieces up, and then this slot will tab into the small tab that is on the top of the hip. So just align all of this up, and this just gets the posture correct for combined form. I honestly cannot wait to see how this Devil Saviour Devastator turns out. And then just align this one up in exactly the same way. For some reason this one's ever so slightly more stiff, but once that's done, here we have the entire upper region now fully completed. Now we turn to this whole section. So for this, you're going to want to take these pieces, rotate this around, come to this section here, rotate this one around also, and then just bring those together and tab these into place and hook those at the top, and then these just sit in between these gaps. So you just really want to have those sitting so that it looks like the hydraulics are going down into this whole chamber. With that now done, we'll turn our attention to working on the arms. So pull all this out of the way, hinge this out, hinge this section out, For this, you're going to want to rotate. So you'll want to rotate so that the screw is facing upwards, and then you'll ratchet this all the way back. With that now done, you'll hinge this all the way forwards, take this section here, and this slot will peg into this tab. So just take this, bend the elbow, snap that nice and securely into place, and of course repeat the same process. So lift it so that the screw is facing up, snap that into place, rotate this around, take this section here, and if this ever gets in the way, just bend the elbow, and then that will snap in. Bring the two halves into the middle, rotate this around, and then both of these here will tab in, and then you'll just bend that down. So you can see now that the leg is slowly starting to take shape. With that now done, we begin working on this whole section. So take these here, just push those downwards, take these, hinge those off to the sides, and then lift this piece up, swivel this out to the side, and leave it in a configuration like this. Repeat the same process. So take this spring here and hinge this out of the way and leave that in that configuration. Here now, I want to take these and just hinge all of these out of the way. We can begin to work on these tyres later on, but here what you'll do is you'll actually raise all of this up on this hinge joint, and then this whole section will slide into this, and just moving these out of the way, you can see these two spaces that these two tabs will peg into. So you'll probably want to move those out of the way, fold the wheels out to the sides so that we can get some clearance. The wheels do become rather difficult, but we'll just hinge all this up, shoot this joint in there, and now we'll take these green pieces and just hinge those down and repeat the same process, which will give us more clearance to snap this all nice and securely into place, and then just push these two halves together. And then here now with the wheels, you're going to want to take these green pieces and hinge those off to the side so that we have full clearance in bringing these sections to in the middle. So take this green piece, fold this out to the side, and then with these, it's just a matter of hinging these pieces around. These are rather difficult to actually maneuver, but you're probably going to want to have them out of the way, so upwards instead of downwards. My apologies. So raise these up, and then bring these two halves together, and you'll find that they do tab in a lot more securely now that I have these green sections pointed upwards. Once that's now done, just align all of this up appropriately. This huge tab here will peg into this slot here. So take this, just raise all this up, snap this piece into place. Snap all that into place. Take our missile pods and just tab those in. And here we have the combined form for DS-04 fully transformed up. Now, wrapping things up and taking a look at the third and final form of DS-04, here we have Longhaul fully transformed up into his combined form, which is of course the leg to their upcoming Devastator. This looks absolutely fantastic. Honestly, this makes me so excited for Devil Saviour's upcoming Devastator project. Just look at the tremendous amount of detail, and all of the paintwork just looks truly splendid. I'll definitely be keeping this version of Devastator in its combined form rather than their individual robot modes. As don't get me wrong, I think that their individual robot modes look phenomenal, but this Devastator piece I just think is going to be so nice. You can see here that it's going to peg in via this section, and as you saw earlier, the instructions do detail on how to do that. You've got the missile pods here which hang off to the back, which I just think looks so cool. You've got these hydraulic sections which hinge off into the back. You've got these springs here for suspension. Just looks so nice. No obvious looking robot mode pieces either, so you don't have any arms or head visible like you did on the Studio Series version. I think that all looks quite cool, and really and truly just from every angle I think this looks so nice. He has a very stable support structure. I'm applying quite a lot of weight to this piece here, and it can just withstand the weight, so that's amazing. Something which is rather unfortunate I've found is that this leg isn't that articulated. The only real piece of articulation that it has is a ankle rocker joint side to side. There's no real toe bend, and I imagine that if you did that, you'd probably begin to mistransform things. So by the looks of things, you're probably only going to be able to hinge this section forwards and backwards. It's unsure whether or not there'll be a ratchet joint here for you to rotate the leg. I imagine you probably will, but in terms of articulation, I don't think that their Devastator is going to be the most posable, but of course, it's going to be absolutely massive. For comparison, just quickly bringing in the Studio Series long haul leg, you can see here that it is even bigger than the Studio Series version, and this is only the bottom section of the leg, so we still have overload section here which is going to peg in. So I honestly think that this figure is going to be an absolute huge gestalt. So that was my review on the newly released Devil Saviour DS-04 Smash, aka a masterpiece rendition of Revenge of the Fallen movie long haul. If you haven't guessed already from this review, similarly to my impressions of DS-01, I'm absolutely blown away with the level of detail and movie accuracy that Devil Saviour have once again got with this figure. This looks truly remarkable. Robot mode is amazing. I think that vehicle mode 2 looks phenomenal, and just check out the combined form. This looks superb. I honestly cannot wait to build Devastator. Similarly to that of DS-01, however, the transformation is more on the more complex side and is a lot more involved than some of your Hasbro and even your Hasbro Masterpiece figures. So if you're not into complex conversions, then this may not be the figure for you. However, I can strongly say that this definitely has a lot more of a fluid transformation compared to that of DS-01 and is nowhere near as frustrating nor as difficult. You saw throughout my review that the transformation had an almost step-by-step format where you'd work on the upper section and then begin work on the lower section, which wasn't the case with DS-01. That figure for me is probably one of the most difficult pieces I've ever transformed, but here for long haul I think that it looks absolutely fantastic. So if you are in the market for picking this figure up, he is available to order right now over at Heat Toy, and for that I will leave a link down in the description box below to both the Heat Toy listing of DS-04 Smash as well as a direct listing to their website. I really do hope that you enjoyed this review, and if you did, please do let me know down in the comment section below. Also be sure to let me know whether or not you enjoyed the figure and if you'll be adding this one to your collection, and I thank you so much for watching this review, and until my next review I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.